Shall I just crack on, go with it? Yes, excellent. So welcome to everybody here in person and everybody who is online out in the ether everywhere. So this session is about how to organise a successful meeting, which you'd think by now we'd all know how to organise a meeting because we have them all of the time, don't we? So quickly, a bit about me. So I work for Microsoft. I work in the Microsoft Technology Centre. Been there about 4 months, 10 years of partner working in real life clients before that. I also run some user groups and you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you have any questions about this afterwards, please feel free to reach out. So I guess the first question is, what is a meeting? And I've had conversations with clients and they go, why are you just talking about meetings? We want to talk about work. And it's kind of like, well, meetings make up a lot of work. You do a lot of work in meetings, but also we're now talking about scheduling meetings for things that we wouldn't have scheduled before. So the word meeting is basically, you know, we're scheduling things, aren't we? That's all we're doing. We're arranging for us to all be talking at the same time. So when we look at, you know, the future of work, you know, it's hybrid. We all know it's going to be hybrid. This event is hybrid, so we really need to think, you know, about some of the factors that are going to play into what hybrid is all about, how we're going to work moving forward. And when we think about, you know, collaborative ideation, those serendipitous meetings that we have, or shouldn't use the word meeting, where we talk to people around the water cooler, in a corridor, in a lift, you know, we've got to think about how we recreate those. We also need to think about, you know, improved work-life balance. Where are people going to be? They're going to be in the office or they're going to be remote. We need to actually, you know, think about that because some people don't want to go into the office. You know, social connections and support. Some people do want to go into the office. They frantically want to go into the office. Early in career want to be in the office. People who don't necessarily have the right working environment want to be in the office. So we need to think about who's going to be where and why they need to be there, because it starts to be not an organisational choice, but a personal choice. Thinking about, you know, the technology that we have, we've got networks that we need to have in place. Some people may want to be in the office because working remotely actually isn't as effective. You know, a coffee shop might be better than working at home. So we need to think about the technology. We need to think about the ergonomics. You know, can we sit in the same place for 8 hours and just be on a Teams call? Most of us can't. So we need to think about where we are, what we're doing, how many breaks we have, how long those meetings are, all sorts of different factors that we really want to bring into account when we're thinking about meetings. And then also, you know, the perception of non-verbal cues. I'm standing here waving my hands around. But if you're online, you're probably not paying much attention to my hands because you can only see the slides. So thinking about, you know, how we actually present information in these meetings is really important as well. So we know the future is going to be a bit different. The last 18 months have been a bit different than what we expected. I think it's safe to say that, you know, when we think about the last 18 months, pretty much every organisation in the world has been experimenting for the last 18 months. We may have got into a steady way of working now. We have practices that we've found that work, you know, whether that's having a walking meeting, you know, in the morning whilst you're walking the dog, you're having a meeting with your team, whether it's having Teams calls and you always have them shorter when it's, you know, for clients, for example. So we've got all of these different things that we've tried to bring into play to adapt to being remote only. And now we have to do all of this again, and we need to experiment across all of these again and work out how we find a balance when attendees might be together in an office or they might be remote. And so we've got those two different scenarios that we need to kind of balance. So when we look at sort of the tools that we look at and see, you know, there's stats there that really sort of stand out, or as some of the words don't stand out on the right hand side there, is about the satisfaction. You know, the types of meeting that we have is really important. Choosing the right type of meeting, the right format, the right content is really important to make meetings successful. So when we're looking at this, we really need to start saying, based on all of this information that we have about how effective meetings are, we really have a sales pitch to do to get people to attend more meetings. And that's really what I want to start talking about, is how we actually make people attend our meetings in the first place, because we all have way too many meetings. So when we start to think about the types of meeting, we really are thinking about, if it's informal, is it a one-to-one meeting? Do we want to present information? Do we want to collaborate? Do we want to interact with each other? Or maybe it's a formal meeting, like a board meeting. So we have all of these different types, different characteristics of meetings, and we need to think about these individually to work out how we actually persuade people to turn up. So the question really is meeting the right word? It's overused. We have too many meetings, but they wouldn't all have been considered meetings in the past, but we do need to have them as meetings now. So if we think about it, we need to think about what factors actually are at play here. We want to have a purpose. Why are we actually getting together? Why are we having a conversation together? What is the outcome? So we really want to think about what our purpose is. If you can't tell me what decision we're going to make during a meeting, what the outcome is going to be, what the objective of that meeting is, then there's no purpose, and I'm likely to say, well, actually, I don't know what you need from me, so I'm not going to attend. Now, if you give me an agenda, that might actually help. Certainly, if you explain to me what I might need to do in preparation for it, what I might need to do when I'm in the meeting, and what I might need to do afterwards, two things can happen. One, I can be prepared and I can actually fulfill all your expectations. But two, I can also say, I'm too busy and I won't be able to fulfill your expectations. Maybe you need to find someone else. So I can really work with that and give you the right outcome to make your meeting successful. So when we think about this, we're really thinking about what people, who do we need to actually invite? I know a few people who they've taken to not turning up at meetings, or making their excuses 15 minutes beforehand because they know they're not needed and they know that meeting can't be rescheduled at that notice. They also know that that meeting will still be successful without them. So thinking about who genuinely is going to contribute to the discussions, to the decisions, to the outcome, to that purpose is really important, because you don't want more people than you need. You want the right people in that meeting. Thinking about place. Virtual, physical, where do we actually need to be? Why do we need to be in those places? Can I attend this meeting from anywhere where I've got a headset? Do I need video? Do I need to see information? If it's presenting information, then I need to be able to see it. Do I need to be able to contribute to it and collaborate and use, the whole device? Or could I be walking around looking at something on my phone? Thinking about the place, not only in terms of the physical place, but the virtual place that somebody needs to be, is really important. And then thinking about the process, so when we talk about the process, we really are thinking, well, what do I need to do beforehand? How am I going to get people together at the right location, at the right time, making sure that they can actually attend and commit to attend, making sure they can prepare what they need to prepare, and making sure they can follow up as well. So thinking about the process as well is really important. So when we look at the purpose, we really do need to think, what do I need to do? I want to essentially pitch my meeting to attendees. I want to persuade them that it's going to be worth their while to attend, or tell them why it's mandatory for them to attend so that they actually turn up. But also making sure that they turn up, not, oh, I've just turned up, I haven't had time to read all of this documentation I needed to read beforehand. I haven't turned up without preparing properly, so I can't contribute. But also making sure they're aware of what they're going to have to do afterwards as well. So knowing how much time they might need to prepare is really important. What sort of participation and what's going to come afterwards is really important. An agenda will usually cover all of that. And I work with enough clients where I know if I don't send them an agenda, I am not going to get the right people. It is a pitch, so you need to think of it that way. So when we're starting to think about this, we've got to pitch this meeting. We've got our agenda, we've got our purpose defined. We now need to think about the hardest part. It's, as Moraine described it in the last session, it's a bit like battleships when you're trying to actually book a meeting. You throw out a date. Oh, Monday, 10 a.m. No, can't do that. Okay. Tuesday, 4 p.m. No, can't do that. Right. Thursday, 3 p.m. Yes, I can do that. It's hard work. We've all been there where we're going back and forth to try and work out when we're actually going to have this meeting. That gets more and more difficult the more people are involved. So we really do need to think about what tools we use when we're actually going to try and get people together. So if we think about this, we've got some scenarios. So our purpose, a one-to-one meeting. Okay, so we know it's only going to be a few people. It might be online, it might be in person, it might be regular. We might have shared tasks that we need to manage, but essentially we know what we're doing and we know who's going to be there. So when we look at the tools that we might be using, you know, we could use Outlook and we could schedule a meeting, very straightforward. But we really do want to use things like scheduling assistant to make sure that we are not booking over existing meetings. We might want to be using Findtime. There's a few slots available. Which one would be best for you? Or we might use Cortana. So Cortana, in this case, I'm calling it Cortana here. It's calendar.help is the URL, and they're now calling it Scheduler. It's got a few different names, but it's basically AI based. You send an email to Cortana and then it will actually look in the calendars and try and find appropriate slots or not, depending on how busy you are. So we have different options here that we could be using for a one-to-one. We might be wanting an informal chat. You know, we don't get to meet people in a coffee shop. We don't get to meet people serendipitously. We don't get to informally have a conversation. So when we're doing this, you know, we might, again, we know who's going to be there. We might want to just choose a different location. All right, let's grab a coffee. Maybe we're both getting coffees in different locations. I'm in my kitchen, you're in a coffee shop. That can still work. It doesn't need to be that we're all aligned. We just need to know when we're going to do this. So again, Outlook works well, Cortana works well, Bookings works well. I can throw out my calendar and let external people or internal people book time in my calendar based on my availability. So different tools, different purpose. When we look at a project meeting, we're starting to say, actually, we've got more around the people, the place and the process. But now the tools start to get a little more confined. So maybe we're looking at a Teams meeting here. So we're looking at using a meeting that is in a Teams channel, part of a particular project that everybody is a member of. And then we can still use the scheduling assistant to check availability as well. So that can be in a Teams channel. When we look at an internal meeting, you know, it's maybe not, we don't have a team, so we may not have a channel for it. So we want to look internally and go, okay, it's going to be an Outlook. We're going to use a calendar. We're going to email. We might use the scheduling assistant, and we may very well use Teams as well. But actually, you know, using the more broad Teams meeting of, I've got a chat going on with a bunch of people. So I want to then just create that, turn that into a meeting. So we've got different ways that we can look at these different tools to create a meeting where we don't necessarily have the team structure. And then an external meeting. So when we want to bring people in, we want to actually be inviting them in. So using Outlook, scheduling assistants, that should have Findtime in there as well, Microsoft Teams. We want to bring external people in. We want them to be able to find the time, know when we're going to actually have this meeting, and make sure that they've got access to the right tools as well. So we've got a bunch of different purposes here that run through a few of the tools. So I'm going to go through and show you some of these tools. So the first one is scheduling assistant. It is underused in my experience. And I can tell that because people keep booking over other meetings. And that to me is the biggest sign that people are actually not aware of this tool. So when we look at this, you know, we can say, I've got an email, and what I'm then going to do is click on the icon at the top, which is to do. And weirdly, when you do that, you get the bar come up on the right-hand side. And what you can then do is you can actually take an email. So maybe I've had an email and I need to create a meeting around this email. I can drag that email and move it over. And as soon as I hover over that right-hand panel, it says create an event or add as an event. So I can actually drop something in there. And if I drop it into that area, it will actually create a meeting based on all of the attendees will have come from the recipients of that email. You can see that the content of the email is actually in the body. So it's a really easy way to say, from this email, I need to follow up and actually have a meeting, and I can drag that across and just create a meeting straight out of it. You get it as a pop-up when it's Outlook Online, and it pops up, has all of the same features. If I were creating a meeting just in my calendar, looks very similar, same set of features. Now the scheduling assistant element for this is up at the top. So it's driving those 3 boxes where it says this is availability. These are the suggested times when people actually are all available. So often you will get that. Now it might be 2 weeks out though. It might be a bit further out than you want. So you can either use those and say, okay, I'm just going to click on one of those times, or you click on scheduling assistant and it will show you all of the attendees, and it will show you their calendars, and it will show you where they're busy and where they're not busy. If you've got visibility of their calendars, then you can see actually what's booked in as well. So you can start to assess, actually, do I think my meeting is more important than other things that are in there? And you can then ask them, don't just book over it, obviously, because nobody does that. But you can actually ask them, you can see things that are in there. So scheduling assistant gives you that visibility. It makes it easier for you to not double book people. So therefore, you're pitching your purpose, but you're making it easier for them to say yes, harder for them to say no, because you've already put the thought into when this meeting should take place. So the next one we've got is Findtime. Now Findtime, if you think about the scenario that we've just been through and you look at scheduling assistant and you see that actually there isn't any available time, what do you do then? How do you actually then find time without going through that back and forth with 17 people who you want to actually attend? So with Findtime, what we're going to do here is we're going to take an email as a starting point. We can do this from a calendar, but if we take an email, we want to reply all. What that will do is that will give us the start of an email. Now, you need to add the add-in for Findtime. So if you click on Get Add-ins then and search for Findtime, you can add it in there. But when you then click on Findtime in there, what that will do is that will then pull up a panel on the right-hand side. And it will show you at the top, it's got the duration, it's got the date, and then it will show you this list of availability. So basically we've got 2 green icons there because I've got 2 attendees in this meeting. The more people, the more icons we'd have. Green means they're available. As it goes down, so it's actually ordered by availability. So scrolling down, we start to see actually we're getting reds in there. We're getting double reds in there. So we can see when people are available. So what you can then do is work out, well, actually, who do I actually need to be available for this meeting? Can I give them options to choose from where they might actually be able to prioritize my meeting over other things? Because I know, our reason for doing this is because we don't know when they're going to be available. So what we can do is we can select multiple times from that list. And when we then click on next, that will actually generate, we get a few more options around the top there in terms of what we're going to do in terms of the configuration of that meeting. It'll show us the times that we're actually putting in. And then we will add to email, and that will create a poll that we can then send to our attendees. So we can actually put details in there and say, okay, I can't find any time for you. Can you all vote on this? One thing we definitely need to do with this is to follow up on this afterwards when people are a little late in responding. But what we then do, once we've sent that, it will put into our calendar. So over on the left-hand side there, it puts in holding blocks where those slots are. So it will block out our calendar. We can see that they're actually on hold. That email then goes out, and then we're an invitee. So what do we see now? So what do we see here? We will receive that email. It will have our poll in it. And when we click on the options, what it will then do is it will take us to the Findtime interface as an attendee, and it will say, these are the options, please vote. Which ones can you attend? Which ones can't you attend? And which one do you prefer? Now, if you think that you're trying to arrange a meeting with, 7 people, 3 of them are internal, 4 of them are external, and you can't see those external calendars, this gives us a way to actually throw out a ton of options to them and actually get people to vote. When you select all of these and you vote, you click on the vote, and what will then happen, it'll say, great, you've submitted your ideas. As the organizer, we then get notifications coming back that people are voting. So we know when people are voting. We can click on the view poll, and what that will then do is to show us how people are voting. What we can then do is it will automatically create the meeting. If everybody selects one of them, then it will automatically create it. So when it does that, it will remove all of those holds and it will confirm the meeting in our calendar, so we can see that that meeting has actually been booked. So it gives us a process that we can use to avoid that to and fro with a lot of people internally or externally, especially when you don't, for externals, you can't see their calendar. For internal people, maybe you can't see time that is available. Gives them the option to actually say, you know, they can actually choose when they want to actually attend your meeting. So the next one, now, Cortana, calendar.help, scheduler. This one's been around for a while, kind of in a preview. So if you go to calendar.help, that is the URL, and it will come up with this, and it says, right, meet scheduler. So again, it's the naming is all a bit all over the place. When you sign in with your corporate account, what you get is you get certain options. Now, the idea with this is that you've got certain scenarios, and if you click on those, what it will do is it will create an email to Cortana. So Cortana at calendar.help. And in it, it will put a statement of what you're after. So this is trying to make it easy for you to actually select, create a meeting just by putting in a request, sending it off to Cortana, trusting to the AI. It works. Sometimes it really depends on how busy you are, how easy your calendars are to align. But essentially what it will do is, if you don't want a scheduled meeting that's going to be the same time week in, week out, maybe it's a one-to-one with your manager or an informal chat, you can do this and it will find slots that are appropriate in each person's calendar. So it will try and work out, okay, well, I'm going to do it on Tuesday this week, Thursday's better next week, Wednesday the week after. So it will actually try and work out where the right time is based on availability, saving you the need to go into scheduling assistant, into Findtime, trying to save you some of that time to schedule things. So when you send it, it will come back and it will go, yep, I can find slots or I can't find slots. As a user of this, though, you have some options to say, when do you not want to actually be booked into things? So you can put in, you know, when is my lunch hour? What are my working hours? Those are times that are then excluded, so that Cortana's not looking at those times and not booking over the times that you've reserved for lunch, for example. So there's lots of ways that this could help. When you go into the help, the FAQs, right up at the top there, they've got examples. Now, this is really where you start to go, okay, AI, how far can I push it? What will it understand? What won't it understand? And this is where, you know, you can actually try and test this out and see, you know, how effective it is. As I say, I found it effective for some things. So I used to run a team, lots of people, lots of busy schedules. For scheduling one-to-ones, it was excellent. It worked really, really well to work out based on calendars when people were free. You do need to actually have space in your calendar, though. That is a prerequisite for this one. So the next one, Teams. So when we're thinking about Teams, really want to be thinking about, you know, how we actually use a team channel to store information. So ideally, you know, when you're collaborating in a team with shared objectives, you're working in a team, you're all a member of the team. And if you're all having meetings, if you're on a project or you're a department and you're having regular meetings with everybody there, a team is a really great place to say, actually, if we schedule the team meeting in there, then it will be visible to everybody. Any recordings can be found. We've got a record of it, and any chat that we have in that team, that meeting will be in there as well. So it's a really easy way to allow people to catch up on meetings if they've missed them. So we have the Meet option at the top there. And when we click on that, we get two options. So we have the Meet Now, which will just basically start a meeting and let everybody in that channel know that a meeting has started. Or we have Schedule a Meeting. And when we go into Schedule a Meeting, we get a similar interface to Outlook. It's not identical. It has certain key features in it though. One of them is that it's got a location in Teams here. So this is telling us that this meeting is going to be aligned to this particular team. All the chat will be there. If you record it, it will be there, and it will show up in the conversations within that channel as well. So when we look at that, we also have the scheduling assistant. So we can also put attendees. So if we want people to be mandatory, then we can put them in and explicitly choose people, but we can let people know in the team, okay, I've got a new meeting in here. You can actually just add this to your calendar and join this. So when we look at this, we've got the scheduling assistant, so we can see again who's available. It will automatically bring in all of the members of the team who into this rather than us explicitly having to choose them. When we create this meeting, it then goes into the chat, so we can see it, people can join it easily. We can also have conversation around this as well. So we can have people actually replying, going, oh, I can't do this, but could you raise this in this meeting? You know, actually adding content to what we're going to discuss in that meeting. So when we do click on that, after we've created it, we can actually go into that and we get a bit more information in here. So we'll now have the links to the team meeting. So all of that bumped down at the bottom left. But we also have different options for how we can configure this meeting. So when we're thinking about a team meeting, if we just scheduled it and we said it's a Teams meeting, everybody can join who we invite. Everybody can participate in the chat. It's slightly different when we're in a channel. We have slightly more security constraints. So when we look at this, we may want to say, actually, do we want a lobby? Do we want, if we're bringing external people in, do we want to block them from coming in and starting the meeting until we're there? Do we want them to allow them to do other things? So to raise their hands, to do the chats, video, voice. So we can mute them all if we want to and make it sure that we're just presenting, or we can allow that interaction. So we can really choose how we want to interact in a Teams meeting when we're creating it through Teams. Once we've done that, though, we can record it and it will be visible. So being able to get everybody together because they know that they're in a team, control it, it all works very well so that people can catch up on those meetings afterwards. So the other tool that we've got is Microsoft Bookings. Now this one, if you want external people to find time in your calendar or internal people to find time on your calendar, then this works really well. And if you think about the external people, they can't see my calendar, but I don't want them to just go, can you meet on Monday at 10 o'clock? No, I've got a meeting. Can you meet? You know, we don't really want to do that. So Bookings, the way I use Bookings, I have this set up for me, and I can put a link in, so I have it in my footer. And what I've got is basically, it's a URL. And so you can share it with whoever you want to. If you put it in your footer, in your emails, then when people click on that, what they will see is the Bookings interface. And what this will do is this basically, I have the power to set up what they describe as services. So what do I want to offer? Maybe it's different types of meeting, maybe it's different lengths of meeting, and people can then choose that. So when they select something, they could choose that, and then they can select people. So it could be, you know, project team where you've got multiple people if you wanted to. For individuals, you know, they'll select me, and then it will offer up options for when I have slots in my calendar. So it won't show any dates or times when I can't do a meeting. So it's allowing people to book time in my calendar without double booking meetings that I already have in there. So when they select a date and a time, there's other information, and you can put custom information in, custom details that you may want to get to understand, you know, what they are expecting of you. So if you want to know the agenda, you can ask for that in there as well. And then when they book that and they click on book, then basically, you can put extra verification in as well. So you can make sure that the email address they're putting in, they actually verify it, so you know that it's a genuine email address. They put that in, that comes up, and then they see that they've actually created a booking. And you can allow them to go back in and cancel that booking or to reschedule that booking. So they've got control. If for some reason they can't attend, they've got the control there as well. As the recipient, I would get an invite. It goes into my calendar, so I know it's there. And sorry, the last one was, as they booked it, they get the email. This is from me. I will get it. I will see who it's come from, when it's booked in, and I can just join that straight away. And that'll go into my calendar, so I can see that actually it's got that in there as well. Gives me a nice, easy way to actually see that somebody has organised it. So the Meet Owl Eardley is what I've called my bookings, and in the actual invite, I've got the details from the requester of the meet, and I've got their time zone and booking information. If they've got any other notes that they've put in, any other information, then that will go in there as well. So I've kind of rushed through quite a few different ways that you can actually create a meeting invite. Assuming that you've got, your pitch right and you've got your purpose, then you know what you're going to put in there. You know how you're going to sell it. You can choose the people. You can find those people. Try and make it as easy as possible for them to say yes, as hard as possible for them to say no to your meeting. You can choose the place. Teams, it's fine, but you can put information in there. This can be a walk-in meeting. Put more information in around the agenda. What format does this need to take? And in the process, what do I actually have to do to prepare? What do I have to do to actually follow up on things? What am I expecting from you as the attendee? How are you going to help make this meeting successful, make it get to the successful outcome? And then choosing the right tool. So really making sure that you're checking availability when you've got visibility of people's calendars so that you're not double booking them. Using Findtime to give choice, to give the potential for people to say, yes, I prefer this time to that time. Use bookings to allow external people to actually book your time so that they are booking time when you have free slots. And use calendar.help if you want to trust your life to an AI. So different tools, different purposes for those tools. Obviously, they can be used internally, externally. So internally for all of them, externally, the bottom three work really well for externally. Yeah, and that's essentially it. So are there any questions? I see a hand up. I think we've got do we have a box that we need to have, or a mic?
I'm going to use catch box. Throw it, I'll pass it to you. Welcome.
Thank you. It was about channel meetings, and one of the questions that we're repeatedly asked when our clients are setting up in-channel meetings is how do we make sure that the users have that in their Outlook calendar as well without inviting them as individuals? How do you manage?
Yeah.
I know it's a perennial, but I was wondering if that whole calendaring in-channel calendars, etc. How will we get that unified?
It's a great question, and I think the structure of Teams, the way it works, it sets everything up in Exchange to manage that group. And one of the settings that you can go change in Exchange is to automatically subscribe. Yeah, it's the approach that I would usually take is to say, as part of the provisioning process for Teams, you change those settings so that you've got some of those settings set up to automatically subscribe members of the team when a new meeting is created. Yeah. It is only available through the Exchange admin interface or through PowerShell. It's not available through the user interface to actually configure it around Teams. But
is it only Exchange Online? And if you're on-prem, what's the... You've got a mixed economy sometimes, partially migrated clients. I'm guessing it will be.
I would guess so, but I couldn't say for certain. Yeah,
okay. That's a really good tip. Actually, to say that.
But I would check and see. The group will be online.
Yeah.
So you should have that setting in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from the ether? Any? Yeah, raise your hand if you've got a question in the ether. No. Okay. Well, if you do think of any questions afterwards, you can find me on Twitter or you can find me on LinkedIn. Always happy to answer questions about this. And please do provide feedback using the event app as well. And with that, I'm sure everybody is gagging to get over to the beer and to finish all this hard work. So thank you very much for attending.